So yes, that's a transitory relationship where you're moving up the continuum. What could be another equation? Feel-good factor, which means that the equation is about, okay, I'll work towards the car. What could be, we're slowly moving continuum. What could be another relationship with the car? It's just another medium of transport. It might have been a bullock cart and you wouldn't really care. Right? So you're talking of it's just there and it helps you move from one place to another. Doesn't really matter. I'm reminded of a story about APJ Abdul Kalam, our past president, who was apparently criticized because the presidential photo which is put up in all these government offices happened to have a regular plastic pen in his pocket. And apparently a lot of politicians criticized him, saying most of our other presidents have had Cross or Parker or one of these better ones, and this guy happens to carry a plastic pen in his pocket. And I don't care so long as this fellow writes. We're talking of that medium of transport or that instrument of writing, and yet you don't really care what it is. We're talking of a state of detachment. Of course, a state of detachment, it's a rather controversial term because very often when we talk of spirituality and detachment, it's normally interpreted as renunciation. What we're talking about, we're still talking of a very practical mode of detachment where we continue to work. However, the desire is about ultimately merging with self, ultimately coming to acceptance about everything about self. So there is a certain sense of detachment because for us, what the end product is all right so long as we are at peace with ourselves. So coming back to the application of this philosophy, it's about making what I like we go back is think about in any particular area of knowledge. Okay. So let's talk of a person and his quest for knowledge to know anything and everything here. Let's say he wishes to know a lot. What are the different kinds of feelings that you might have about this particular quest? Ambition, okay. Now if it translates as ambition, what are the kinds of feelings that you might have in the process of acquiring the knowledge? How about, for example, the emotion of jealousy coming in sometimes? Is that a possibility? There could be a possibility of jealousy coming in because you might see a lot of people who are more knowledgeable than you and maybe you're not too comfortable with it. There could be anger because perhaps you do not have enough sources to get that knowledge. What else? You could have a relationship of jealousy coming into ambition. You could have a relationship of anger. You could have a relationship of love with that knowledge, which means you accept whatever is coming in and being in gratitude for it. And perhaps you could also have a relationship of trust. You trust that whenever you're ready for a particular kind of knowledge that will come into your life in whatever source and form. So we're talking about redefining this relationship where whenever it causes an inner unpleasantness, an inner turmoil perhaps, let's have a relook with this application and think about what state are we coming from? Is the anger because we see that others tend to have most of it, but then we are in a state of inertia, that state of laziness, where we're not willing to work towards it. therefore not comfortable. Then perhaps we're coming from a state of aggression. Is it possible to move up the continuum? And that's, the moving up and down is, it might sound a little esoteric as I say, but it's simply a matter of a shift of choice. If I'm feeling anger, is there anything I can do internally to shift that particular choice? And it's a decision of one particular moment, where you say, all right, I'm angry because I do not have a particular source to acquire the knowledge I want. What is it that I can do in order to get that source? So what we're doing is moving away from the tamasic state of inertia, of laziness, where we're not doing anything, into doing. So we're moving into a rajasic state, which will further eventually get us towards the sattvic state, where we are at peace with whatever knowledge we have, and which keeps coming. So when we're talking of the application of the Triguna philosophy, it eventually comes back to awareness. What state are we in? Are we in a sattvic state where we are at peace with whatever we have? Are we in a state of frenzied activity? Or are we in a state of inertia where we drift along and let life happen? The point of it all is about getting to a state in which we are comfortable. If we are comfortable with the idea of activity, well and good. If we are not, then we need to move to either ends of the spectrum where we find balance at that moment in time. That's the application of it, but it does call for, as all other things do, as all other shifts of behavior do, this also calls for a state of awareness. Asking ourselves constantly, where am I? Where am I internally in terms of my relationship with life, my relationship with things and people and possessions around me? Am I comfortable? If not, what do I do? Which definitely means it may not be comfortable to stay very long in the tamasic state. You will have to move at least to a rajasic state in order to get to the sattvic state. It's a circular movement, which is reflected in pretty much all kinds of management documents. It's reflected in other philosophical documents as well. Movement from one state to another, but then there is no regression here. Because even if you do move from a sattvic state to a tamasic state at any point in time, it will be at a higher level of consciousness, so there is no negativity. We're simply talking of a constant state of balancing. But the takeaway for us, I believe, here would be the awareness about moving in that continuum at any point in time where we are in turmoil, internal conflict. Let's ask ourselves, where are we? And that where are we will give us the answer about why is that state coming in, and the answer to the why will facilitate the shift.